It's about the wrestlers with your host, Crazy
doing great. How you doing?
Our Total Chaos Pecaw.
But you know how it is.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's pretty hard, but we got it all good, and I like to thank you for coming on Total Chaos Pecaw for tonight.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
So,
some days you're the mountain, some days you're the plane. You know what I mean?
Sometimes I'm the plane that crashes, so you know what I mean? So I'm always crashing and burning. So tell our listeners, how did you get into ring announcing of wrestling?
Well, this actually started about 13 years ago. I was asked to announce for football games, high school football games. So in my hometown. So I started doing that, and enough people started telling me, man, your voice really sounds good. And I always, the ring announcer is the thing that everybody wants to do, but nobody really knows kind of how to do it. And there is an art to it. There's an actual, to be a pitch man, to do that, there's actually, it's a lot more than just standing there and introducing the fighters or the wrestlers. Of course, that was a growing process, but the opportunity was right. The timing was right. I decided to go for it, so I started out just kind of putting feelers out there, and I got picked up by a little wrestling promotion out of Seguin, Texas, called the Texas Wrestling Federation, and I broke my teeth there in his ring, and just kind of built it from there. Now I've moved on to MMA and boxing. I don't do a whole lot of pro wrestling anymore, other than as a fan. But if I was asked by a promotion to step in, I certainly would do it. It's a whole lot of fun.
So how long were you a ring announcer for wrestling?
Well, for TWF, I started with them. I was with them for about 3 years. Along with TWF, there's a couple other promotions that came and went. IPCW out of Taylor, Texas, that was run by one of the Rhodes family, Austin Rhodes. Then he transitioned to NWA Velocity out of Austin. We ran for a short time out of Austin, again with Austin Rhodes. And that's pretty much it for the pro wrestling. Most of it was with the Texas Wrestling Federation. And then I got picked up by Belts of Honorius MMA out of Austin. And now that's expanded into Chasm Elite out of Belton, Texas, and Premier Combat Group out of San Antonio. So I'm pretty busy.
So what's your schedule like?
Well, about twice a month. I have events about twice a month right now. The next one coming up is September 19th in San Antonio, Texas at the Cowboys Dance Hall. It's a Premier Combat Group. Right now there's 17 fights on the card. That'll probably shrink down to about 12 or 13. They got a great promotion. It's a huge venue, a couple thousand people in attendance. So it's pretty cool.
And so how long were you doing the MMA announcing?
I'm in my second year in MMA.
And when did you start doing your boxing?
Well, I've only done boxing twice, and that's a little more. The boxing is not as big as it used to be, so there's not a lot going on with boxing as far as promotions. MMA is the big ticket now. I've only done 2 boxing promotions, and both of them were kind of a one-time deal. The promoter just put together some fights. One was an amateur fight with minors, with kids that were in boxing that they wanted to showcase. And I did that one for free, kind of as a service to those kids. It's kind of an after-school type deal program that parents put, like a little league boxing. And the other boxing was very small. It was just like a very small gym, only about 30, 40 people there. So boxing is a little bit harder because there's not a lot of boxing going on as far as big promotions. The MMA is right now the big ticket.
So if you had to pick out of the 3 you just said, would you think wrestling would catch up steam with MMA?
No, because it's a different type of deal. Especially with independent wrestling, there's no money in it, so you have to do it for the love of the genre of the sport. And fun wise, wrestling takes the cake. I mean, the wrestlers are a hoot. They're great fun. When you get involved in putting together the show and telling the story and being part of that, a lot of fun. No money in that, though, but I have a lot more fun doing the wrestling because it's more, you can use your imagination more, where the MMA, although it's very entertaining and it's exciting, it's just different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so
plus,
it's
good money. Plus, you make really good money in MMA. So. But I'm not, I mean, the money is good, and it should be, but the MMA, it's just different. You can't really compare them because it's a different crowd, it's a different sport, it's a different, God, what am I trying to say?
Different animal.
Exactly. The MMA crowd is what it is. It's jiu-jitsu and ground fighting, and it's got a very tight, very close-knit following. They're fanatics about that genre. Pro wrestling is sports entertainment. Everybody knows what it is. So there's a different crowd, younger crowd, kids, more kids at wrestling events. More, just the fun stuff, the haphazard stuff. You're telling a story. So when you tell a story throughout the whole wrestling event, you're telling that story, and it's 3 hours long. In MMA, you don't know what the story's going to be because you don't know if that fight's going to go 12 seconds or all 3 rounds or 5 rounds. So your MMA event could have 14 fights. It could either go an hour and a half or it could go 3 hours. You just don't know.
But you're making your money. That's pretty good. So tell our listeners about the wrestlers you've seen on your ring announcing tour.
Well, I had the pleasure of announcing Raven from the ECW. I don't know if you know who Raven is.
Yes, I know.
Raven is very nice guy, very good person just to sit and listen to. A lot of knowledge about the sport. Lance Hoyt is one of the fixtures here at Inspire Pro, and I've been honored to introduce him in the ring for TWF and for Velocity. Of course, Austin Rhodes down here, and then the Texas big names. Mike Dell, James Claxton, Bolt Brady. A couple of guys are in Ring of Honor now. ACH, Dirty Andy Dalton, Palmer. I mean, just great independent wrestlers, and a lot of fun to watch.
So, you said you ring announced Raven. Do you have any funny stories with you and Raven?
Basically, Raven was calling me into the ring, and I acted like I had a phone call after I saw 2 or 3 other people get slaughtered. So I was like, hey, I got a call. So I left. And then after announcing him, he was getting in the ring, and I was getting out, and I was straddled between the middle rope, and he got me. He got me with the middle rope, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So tell our listeners about that upcoming star of ACH out of Texas.
Well, ACH is phenomenal. The kid is, energetic. He's a great wrestler, great technique. Everybody he wrestles with looks good. And he signed a contract with Ring of Honor, and he's bringing a lot of guys out of Texas with him. Dirty Andy Dalton's one of them, right off the top of my head. Palmer is another one. There's going to be a lot of talent coming out of Texas and hitting the Ring of Honor, and hopefully moving on to TNA, and then hopefully moving on to WWE. Absolute Ricky Starks has already been on WWE a couple of times, and he's a great talent. Just beat Dirty Andy Dalton for the Inspire Pro Championship last Sunday.
So that must have been, you must have had a great time, huh?
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of fun.
And so can you tell our audience, what's the crowd limit? Like, is it packed?
Well, for wrestling, it could be up to 400. NWA 360 up in Temple or up in Belton at the Bell County Expo Center had 300 or 400. And that's a good size indie crowd, 3, 4. I've seen Inspire Pro have up to 500. For MMA, it's about 1,200.
Holy shit!
Yeah. Well, it's like, again, it's a different thing. It's a different genre. It's not even close to being the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a different animal, and it's like MMA is like the future, and wrestling's almost like the past. Or you?
Well, no, it's just different. It's like comparing golf and baseball. It's just different. You're gonna have a different crowd. You're gonna have different tastes. Different types of athletes. I know that the crossover with between MMA and WWE with Brock, but I think Brock, he was the UFC champion. He trained for mixed martial arts. He trained for the UFC, and I think once you train like that, then transitioning into wrestling is very easy because you're learning a different skill set, but your body is in shape. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And plus, with the jiu-jitsu training and the judo training and all that stuff, you have a set of skill sets, a foundation already there to be able to integrate that into the wrestling moves. Now, a wrestler that wants to go into MMA, even if they're in great shape, you're starting from nothing because it's a whole different skill set. Football players, baseball players, and tennis players, basketball players, they all play golf. But you don't see a golfer trying out for the NFL or the NBA. I know it's kind of harsh, and I'm probably going to catch some heat for that. And I'm not taking away anything from the wrestling art because it is an art. You have to be trained. You have to go through training, but it's different training. It's not anywhere near the training you go through. It's just a different type of training, if that makes sense.
Yes. You have to work your ass off to be in a wrestling ring. So you were talking about Brock. So what do you think CM Punk's going to be able to do once he gets in the octagon?
Well, he's going to have to train, and he's going to have to become at least he's going to have to earn a belt in jiu-jitsu for sure. He's going to have to train for MMA. It's not wrestling. You can't. I mean, it's not wrestling. So I think he's got the drive to do it, but you haven't seen him in the cage yet because he's still training. And unlike wrestling, like wrestling, when you're going through training and your trainer decides when you are ready to get in the ring and perform. In MMA, your coach and your handlers have to be absolutely sure that when you get into that cage, you can protect yourself. Because you can get hurt. You can get hurt real bad.
So if you had a qual all three of the sports you announced, what would be the hardest?
I think physically the hardest would be MMA, mixed martial arts fighting. That would be the hardest as far as the punishment that your body takes, the training for it, the different skill sets that you have to master to be an MMA fighter. I would say as a sport, the MMA would be the hardest physically. Boxing would be the second because boxing is a science. They call it the sweet science, and that's what it is. You're scoring points. You're not looking for a submission. You're looking for a knockout, or you're looking to score points. You have to be in incredible shape to go 8, 9, 10, 15 rounds boxing. and it's a different skill set. And for wrestling's one of those arts where you either get it or you don't. And a lot of people don't get it. So mentally, you have to be able to get it. You have to be able to figure it out early, what it's all about. And the great ones figure it out. The ones with it figure it out. Because it's a total different type of training, science. Again, it's like baseball and golf. It's like comparing them. You're comparing two totally different sports.
And so, in your young career, or young, because we're all young. I tell people we're all young. So
yeah, I like that.
yeah. So I'm up there with you. Don't worry, my friend. I'm rarely up there. I'm climbing too. I'm 43. So
people always talk about that blonde hair in my beard. It's an old time movie blonde. It's not gray.
Yeah. So you look good for your age, Mike. You look good for your age. But did you ever think about getting in the ring for wrestling, boxing, or MMA?
20 years ago, I probably would have considered it. I'm almost 50. If I do anything, I would train to get into shape, but I would not compete. That would be irresponsible. I'm not. Even if I trained every day for a year, I would not presume to be able to hang with these guys that are 20 years old, 25. It would be silly. It'd really be silly.
So you think
even wrestling, I'm long in the tooth. If you're going to get into wrestling and if you're going to abuse your body like that, you're going to go through the training and the hours of training it takes to learn the Scientology of it, to learn the in-ring skills. To do that, I think it would be disrespectful for me at my age to presume that I could get in there and do anything that would get beyond the indie crowd.
And I noticed you got your own little podcast.
I do. I do. What's that?
Go tell our listeners about your podcast.
Well, I broadcast every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. to midnight, Central Standard Time, on Armed Radio Global, and our platforms are off of Spreaker and TuneIn. So if you go to TuneIn and you search Armed Radio Global, it'll bring up our station. We run music and advertising 24 hours a day. And then every night of the week, we have a talk show, and mine runs Wednesday nights.
And so tell our listeners what you talk about.
Well, we talk about a variety of things. Usually I'll get on the air and talk about politics. I'll talk about sports. I know the football season's coming up. We have a segment where we do football picks. I have a panel that comes on and we discuss the games and what teams are going to do what. And then we talk a little smack and kind of stuff like that. And I've invited you to join us this year for that. And I keep a spreadsheet. And whoever has the best win percentage at the end of the year gets to talk smack for 6 months, 8 months.
Well, hey, maybe you'll have to come out here and wear an Eagle jersey.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. although Tim Tebow looked pretty good today.
Yes, he did. Tebow did.
Really good. Now, as a matter of fact, I was caught a little bit of his action. When I watch preseason, I don't watch the whole game. I'll watch the first part of it, or I'll skim through it. I've got them on DirecTV, so I'll tape them and I'll skim through them. I watched Menzel's a couple of series the other day, and when I was watching Detroit, I watched Stafford's series and the running backs and just to see how the rookies are doing. But I don't watch the whole games because it's a scrimmage basically. Tebow got in there and he did pretty good. He scored a touchdown, got a couple of first downs.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. It's a third stringer, my friend. Third string. So we got to get him in that first string or second string.
I tell you, he's third string now, but I wouldn't put it past him starting by the end of the year.
All right, let's play a little game. I like games. And you're getting my blood, Jono. Hughes. So if you're the owner, I'm the Eagles owner. I want to trade for Calvin Johnson. What do I have to do to get Calvin Johnson on the Eagles uniform?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I can't hear you. What are you saying?
I said I'm the Eagles. Well, I'm the Eagles GM, and you're the Detroit GM.
Uh-huh.
How do I get Calvin Johnson on the Eagles uniform?
I'm sorry, this is breaking up. I can't hear you. It's a really bad connection. Did you say something about trading Calvin Johnson, and I just know that can't be correct?
Come on, yes,
yeah,
Eagles. Yeah. Come on. Hey, you'll do anything to get something because, hey, we might be the team to beat this year. The Philadelphia Eagles.
It was bad enough that we got rid of Sue. That was bad enough.
Well, he went to Miami. I don't know what happened there.
I don't know what's happened there either, but it's not good. So if we were to get rid of Calvin Johnson, I just might give up after a lifelong, following this team my whole life, rooting for him my whole life. If they got rid of Calvin Johnson, I just might say, you know what, it's just not worth it anymore.
Well, you'll have to come to Philly. I'll buy you a cheesesteak, and we'll sit at the game and watch the game, and I'll put an Eagles jersey on you.
I'll see. I'm not quite desperate enough to be an Eagles fan.
Oh, come on, Mike. Come on, we gotta have. I'll guarantee you wear an Eagles jersey.
I will tell you, I do root for the Eagles twice a year, and that's when they play the Cowboys.
Oh yes, I love you, Mike. So it's pretty good because anybody who hates Dallas makes me even more happy.
Yeah, I hate Dallas.
Me too. I remember. You remember the Eagles against Dallas? Michael Irvin got hurt, and the fans were cheering him. Remember that?
Oh yeah. That's a Philly fan for you.
Hey, come on now. Hey, fan
you're the only stadium in the NFL that's got a jail in the basement. Okay. So
come on. They got a jail cell at the. Hey, I'm going to tell you a story. We got a while here. I was at a Phillies game, and you probably know the story pretty well. You remember J.J. Drew?
Yeah.
The Phillies drafted him back in whatever, and he was out of Miami. And he said he didn't want to go to the Phillies because the Phillies suck. I'm sorry about my language, but they said he sucked, and we sucked, and they didn't want to come here. So he sat out a year. He went to Independent League, and the Phillies traded him to St. Louis. And this story is not live because I was there live, very live. So the game started at 7:30. Batteries and flashlights, that don't mix. So the fans, it was like 7th inning stretch. J.J. Drew's coming out to center field. The fans started throwing batteries at him.
Batteries?
Yes, batteries. Like they took him out of the flashlight and started throwing them at him. So here's the kicker about this. Then two dudes were getting in a fight. And I don't knock anybody. I respect everybody because everybody needs a job. You know what I mean? So this 90-year-old security guard is trying to stop a fight between two 30-year-olds. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like, why would you do that? I've seen a lot of crazy stuff in Philly. It's when the Eagles won the division the first time with Donovan McNabb, Brian Westbrook, and everything. We won the division. This one guy comes up to me. Do you want to tip of us. I said, buddy, we didn't win the Super Bowl. We only won the damn division. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, what are you getting out of this?
Yeah, I don't get that. Hey, we won. Let's go destroy stuff.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, come on, buddy. I don't want to get in trouble here. We only won the division. I don't want to be downstairs in the local Pecaw, because then I'll have to call you to bail me out.
Yeah.
And Mike will say, oh, you're a Philadelphia fan. You can stay there. Huh?
Absolutely.
Let's give a little preview for our audience, because our listeners will maybe hear Crazy Joe on your show.
Sure, absolutely, anytime.
I mean, Crazy Joe is willing to come on and have some fun, blast. We could talk sports. And, hey, I told you about my gambling situation today, didn't I?
No.
Well, the Eagles won, so it only won me $8.
Oh, yeah. When you're putting on it.
Hey, I'll bet on anything. If there's two ants walking across that street, I'm betting on them. Hey, I'll bet on you that I can turn you to an Eagle fan.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Come on now, Mike.
I might root for the Eagles during a game, but I'm a Detroit Lions fan. I got to stick with them. As big a train wreck as they are, I can't turn my back on my home team, man. I just can't do it.
All right, my friend. And you know what? One of these days, I'm gonna get you to get on that Philadelphia ride. But right now, I want to. What did you think of the Barry Sanders situation?
As far as,
you remember when he was Detroit wanted to sign him and he didn't want to stay? What did you think about that?
I just think he was tired. I mean, he was tired, and he didn't have any support really with Detroit, and I don't blame him. I mean, you got a running back like that, you need to go invest some money on an offensive line, and Detroit just doesn't spend money on offensive lines. You know, they might, they'll go out and get a great receiver in Calvin Johnson, but at the end of the day, if your quarterback can't stay upright and be able to see him because he's getting rushed, to me, Detroit, here's the thing. The owners of Detroit aren't ready to invest enough money to make a winner. They're making money. They're happy. The fans of Detroit deserve a championship. You know, players go to Detroit to go somewhere else, unfortunately. And that's got to stop before they start winning. They have to, at the end of the day, they have to put a team together and then put the atmosphere, the winning atmosphere, the winning culture has to return to Detroit. And it hasn't been there since 1957. You know? So they've got to invest in that. They just won't invest in that. And the proof is in the pudding. I mean, they could have kept Sue. They could have kept the number one run defense in the NFL, and they didn't. They dismantled it. Now the offense is going to have to pick up the slack, but they don't have the offensive line. So with Barry Sanders, he did all that with no offensive line, no quarterback, barely a receiving core, and a middle-of-the-pack defense at best. And it's all because the owners aren't willing to invest any money, really, to make that a great team.
All right, let's do our own little prediction here on Total Chaos Pecaw. I'll go through the division. Your division, what do you think? Who's going to win that division?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's Green Bay. It's Green Bay's division to lose. I want to say Minnesota, Detroit are going to fight for second, and the Bears are just horrible. They're absolutely atrocious. That's a 4 or 5 win team right there.
I see. I agree with you with the Green Bay team because Aaron Rodgers is got. You know what I mean? He's great. He's always there. You know what I mean? He's always in there. Mr. Clutch, I would call him. Because when you need a play, he's there to get it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And what about that division out east?
The NFC East, man, it's just a bad decision. It's a bad division right now. Dallas is rebuilding. Everybody says they're a great team. They're not. They're average at most. New York had lost a bunch of folks. They're average at best. Philadelphia, believe it or not, I think has the best chance of taking that division, but the division's going to be down. So whoever wins that division is going to be barely over 500. Washington is a train wreck. So if I were to have to rank them 1 to 4, I'd say Philadelphia, New York, and Dallas are going to be fighting for second and fighting to be 500, and Washington.
You know,
maybe a 3-win season for Washington. They're absolutely horrible.
But you know, I'm going to get you there, Mike. You're going to be wearing that Eagle jersey. I'll bet you my Eagles will have more wins than Detroit.
Well, see, that's a good bet.
Here's the kicker of this one.
I think Detroit's 500 at best this year. 500 at best. I haven't looked at their schedule yet. I'm scared to, but they're not that good. I mean, their defense is went from the number 1 run defense to suspect. I mean, it's not even in the top 10. They picked up some old guy from Baltimore and a bunch of rookies. So, yeah, I totally think Philadelphia's going to have a better record. Not much better. I look at, Philadelphia, I'm looking at, they're going to win the NFC East because they're going to beat all the other teams there. But I'm looking at barely over 500. And I'm looking at Detroit being sub 500. So, I think they have a better record, but not by much. I'm looking at you're looking at a 9-7 for Philly, maybe a 8-8 or 7-9 for Detroit.
So, all right, we got our situation set up here. You're saying Green Bay and Eagles. And what about out west?
Out west, Seattle it's theirs to lose. They're on top of the heap right now in the NFC. They've got everything they need. They got a lot. Damn near every one of their players is returning. They drafted well with very little. They gave the quarterback a nice big contract. Seattle, that's a 12-13 win team right there. That's the best in the NFC, in my opinion. San Francisco's going to drop off. They'll probably be at the bottom of the heap. Arizona's average. St. Louis, right now, they don't even know if they're going to stay in St. Louis. And that's tough. That's tough for a team to not know if you're playing your heart out for the city and you don't even know if you're going to be there next year. Because there's talk that they're going to move back to LA. So, that's Seattle and you got to flip a coin. I don't even know who's going to be second, third, and fourth because they're so bad. I mean, that whole division was so bad for so long. San Francisco had a spike and challenged, but Seattle by a lot. It's going to be Seattle. Seattle. If you had to rank them, Seattle, Arizona, San Francisco, St. Louis.
So far we got the Eagles, Seattle, and we got the Green Bay. So tell us about the Central now, or the South.
NFC South. The worst division in football. Their division leader last year made the playoffs and didn't even have a 500 record.
I think my Eagles could have made the playoffs last year and do better.
However, this is a new year. The Carolina Panthers have drafted well, and they were on the rise, so they'll be strong. Atlanta has always been just this side or better than average, and I think they're going to maintain that. New Orleans is resurgent. They're going to come out firing. They have a pretty easy schedule. If I look at their schedule here real quick. They play Arizona, Tampa Bay, Carolina, and Dallas. So that's 2-2 right out the gate. Then Philadelphia, Atlanta, Indianapolis, New York. 4-4. I'll make it 5-3. And Tennessee, Washington, Houston, and Carolina again, 9-3. Then they end with Tampa Bay, Detroit, Jacksonville, and Atlanta. So you're looking at a 10-6 New Orleans Saints. So if I had to pick right now, New Orleans, Carolina, Atlanta, Tampa Bay.
And tell our listeners, because we got off the wrestling subject, and sports is like my magic. This is my animal. So tell our listeners, what do you think Winston's going to do this year? James Winston.
I think James Winston's going to start. I think he'll do well. It'll be a learning year. He doesn't have anybody around him really, so it's going to be kind of hard. I don't think he's the type of player that's going to put the team on his back and carry him to a Super Bowl. However, at the end of the day, I think he'll have a good year. I think he's going to get beat up because they have no offensive line, and I think they're going to be able to build around him. But he's not going to carry that team to anywhere. He doesn't really have anybody around him yet.
All right, Mike. I got this hot ticket of a question to ask you. How long will it take Winston to get in trouble?
I don't know. When you're in college, you do dumb stuff. Now he's a professional. I don't know. Hopefully he stays out of trouble. Hopefully he gets some good mentorship around him, some people around him that will help guide him. I think he has a tremendous opportunity because I do think he's the caliber of player that if you build a team around him, if you get your defense done, that he's the kind of he's the type of player that could be Joe Montana, Aaron Rodgers. He's the guy you can build your team around and be very, very successful. So hopefully he stays out of trouble. There's lots to do down there in Tampa Bay, though.
But so you're saying it's the Eagles, Green Bay, New Orleans, and Seattle. Who's the 2 wild cards?
2 wild cards. Man, the NFC's just been down. So, I mean, if you had to pick a wild card, I'd say Arizona and Minnesota.
Arizona and Minnesota. You just broke a lot of people's heart in Dallas.
And it's a toss-up between Arizona and Carolina. Dallas is overrated. I mean, come on. Every year it's the best team in football. Oh, we got all these people. Dallas has a great offensive line, but they might. Them and New York Giants are going to be neck and neck.
All right, so my producer's team, and I'm not going to tell. I don't want to say my producer's team because then I'll be disappointed. And then I won't want to watch football for the season. So tell us who's going to be in the NFC Championship game, and who's going to make it to the Super Bowl?
Seattle.
Over who?
It'll be Seattle and pick one. New Orleans. I think has the best chance.
Mike, you just hurt my heart, Mike. I think it just stopped.
Not there yet, dude. Philly's not there yet. Jimbo, not Jimbo, the coach. Dang it.
Chip Kelly.
Chip Kelly's only his second year, man. He's got
third year.
It's only his third year. I mean, you're still in the honeymoon phase. You're gonna have a good year, but he's still trying to figure things out. He's trying to get his roster figured out.
So you're telling me Tim Tebow will be on that team?
I would love to see Tim Tebow become a successful NFL football player. I'm a big Tebow fan. I think the guy is the right kind of character that the NFL needs, that kids can look up to, that people can just look up to. He's just a good man. And he doesn't have a lot of the skills, but he's got a lot of heart. And from what I watched during the preseason game, he's definitely been working on his game. He didn't sit around in the off season and feel sorry for himself. He wasn't picked up under contract, and that says a lot for some. You can build a team around somebody like that, with that integrity and that character. And I'm a Tebow fan, so I hope he does well. And I would like to see him make this cut, stay on the team, maybe as the number 2 or number 3, and then who knows? I mean, the other 2 quarterbacks could totally flame out, and Tebow gets out there and he takes that last opportunity that he's fought so hard for, and he just makes magic happen. Who knows?
All right.
Hello.
Hey, Mike, I made an excuse for you. Don't worry, buddy. I told him the only reason you dropped the phone because you felt bad because my producer, and I'll have to tell you what he is. He's a Seattle fan. And you didn't want to get dropped. And you know who the real team is. The team from South Philly. So
that's awesome.
So, and maybe he thought that too. So, we won't tell him. So, let's move to the AFC. And what do you think about that New England team?
Well, that New England team is going to be the team to beat. Period. I think they're going to uphold the suspension, which I think is a bunch of crap. And I'm not a New England fan. I'm a Michigan fan, and I'm a Tom Brady fan, and I think it's crap. And he's going to sit out his 4 games, and whether that team's 4-0, 3-1, 2-2, 1-3, or 0-4, when Brady gets back behind the center, they're going to rip through the rest of the schedule, go right to the Super Bowl and win it. It's not even going to be close.
All right, Mike, I got a little secret for you, buddy. This is an inside source.
That's a pissed off team right there.
I got an inside source. Inside source. This is the gambling line, too. When Brady comes back, who do you think he's going to play?
Dallas Cowboys.
No, his first game back is the Colts. It's on Sunday night football.
Oh man, that's going to be like a 90-0 game.
Prime time. So
that's going to be like 100-0. That's not even fair. I wouldn't even. Man, if I were the Colts, I'd get like a scrub team to go there. It's going to be slaughter.
So let's go team by team in that division. So what do you think about the Jets?
Jets are horrible. Absolutely horrible.
So
if I would have to bet, if I were a betting man, I would bet that team doesn't win a game the whole season.
Well, Geno Smith's going to be out, 6 to 10 weeks?
That doesn't even. The team's worse when he's in. They're absolute. That team will go 1-15, 0-16, easy.
All right. So what about Miami?
Miami is going to be middle of the pack. I can see a 10-win season, maybe. They're going to be fighting Buffalo. Buffalo's rebuilding. They're going to get lucky. They might have a couple of lucky games. Buffalo comes out of the gate, and they're playing Indianapolis, New England, and Miami, and New York. So that's, you're looking at 0-4 right out the gate. Then they go to Tennessee. Tennessee's strong. Then Cincinnati, Jacksonville. You could be 0-7 going into your bye week. Very easy. Very, very easy. But I think they'll pick up a few of those games. They might beat New York. Tennessee's vulnerable. They might be able to come up and beat them in Jacksonville. So 3-4 into their bye week, and then they come back playing Miami, New York, and then New England again. So that's a 2-1 or 1-2. 2-1. And then they finish out with Kansas City, Houston, Philadelphia, Washington, Dallas, and New York. So they could very easily get a 10-win season out of that.
So you're telling us it's New England, Buffalo, Miami, and the sinking Jets.
Yeah, well, it's New England by a lot. Buffalo and Miami fighting around 9 and 10 wins each, and New York they'll struggle to win 2 games.
All right, so we got New England in the playoffs.
Yeah, AFC North. AFC North. That's the toughest division in football. Absolutely, bar none. All 4 of those teams will be over 500, easy.
So you think they'll get 2 teams out of the wild card?
There'll at least be 2 teams will come out of the North. Well, 1 team will come out of the North as a wild card. Maybe 2. You're right. It might be 2. Might be Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cincinnati.
Do you think Johnny Manziel can stay out of trouble this year?
God, I hope so, because that's a huge talent. And I'm a Manziel fan because I like the energy he brings. You know, he just but he had a problem. He admitted to the problem. He supposedly went and took care of the problem. So, we'll see. I mean, he played real well in the preseason game, scored a rushing touchdown, scored a passing touchdown, managed the ball well, stayed in the pocket, scrambled when he had to. He's very mobile, very hard to get a hold of. If I think if they put the right people around him, I think that could be a franchise quarterback. I think he could have a very lucrative, very good career in Cleveland.
And can I ask you? Go ahead.
If he stays out of trouble, but they're not ready yet. They're not ready to take over that division yet. Pittsburgh is king. Pittsburgh and Baltimore are going to be fighting. Cincinnati's going to be nipping at their heels.
And so, let's say if you had to put Tim Tebow and Johnny Manziel, would you say they're almost image to each other?
No, because Tebow's bigger and stronger and has a little more leadership and much more integrity. He's not going to go out to a strip club and get hammered or be snorting cocaine in the bathroom. You know what I'm saying?
No.
As a team leader, and as just a man of integrity, I think, plus his skills, because he's basically a tight end. He's a tight end that can throw the football well. And he's a leader, so people follow him. And that's what really you need. I mean, Joe Montana, body-wise, strength-wise, was average. But what he lacked in physical ability, he was head over heels in front of everybody, head and shoulders above everybody in leadership, maturity, and just smarts. And Tebow's a smart quarterback. He knows the game. I mean, he played 5 years. 5 years at Florida and did well. Won the Heisman, won a couple of national championships. So he's no slouch. He knows the game. He just, he had to take a couple of years off and relearn how to be an NFL style quarterback. He's got the arm strength. He's strong. He's tough. He's durable. I think Manziel is smaller, not as strong, but he's a little more fleet of foot. Mental toughness. He has a lot of mental toughness, but he's a little more of a gunslinger. Manziel's more like a Brett Favre.
So let's say let's say if you could stick 2 quarterbacks on that field for that Eagle team, and I apologize that we went back to the Eagles. I'm an Eagle fan, so I gotta. Can you put 2 quarterbacks on that field and confuse everybody up?
I think that's been tried before. I don't think that's a real good offensive scheme outside of high school, to be quite honest. You're dealing with men and egos, and it takes a special breed of football player to do that. I think Tebow is one half of that equation, because I think he'd buy into it if he thought it would be best for the team. But it's hard to find another quarterback that would buy into that, because the quarterback position is a very prestigious position, and that's the face of the franchise. And when you get to that level, you want to be the face of the franchise. You want to be that guy. You want to be the guy. I mean, when you think of Baltimore, Ravens, you think of Joe Flacco. Detroit, Stafford. Green Bay, Rodgers. New Orleans Saints, you got my man from Westlake down here. His name just fly out of my head.
Drew Brees.
I mean, when you think about those teams, that's what you think about. New England, what's the first thing that pops in your head?
Tom Brady.
Exactly. So you want to be that guy. You know, Denver Broncos, Peyton Manning.
So speaking of the Broncos, what do you think of that West?
AFC West, San Diego's going to be a mess because they're thinking about moving. Oakland's the same way. You know, they might not even be in Oakland. I think they're gonna suffer mentally from that, so they're going to be nothing. Kansas City is a tough team. Going to be really tough to beat in the AFC West. I think tougher than most people think. They'll beat the Raiders and Chargers easily. Broncos will beat the Raiders and Chargers easily. It'll come down to the Chiefs and the Broncos for lead of that division. It's going to be tight. It's going to be tight. I think Peyton was a great quarterback. I'd like to see him go back to another Super Bowl and win it, just so he doesn't have to sit at Thanksgiving dinner with his brother over there with 2 rings, and he's only got 1. But I think his days are kind of past, and I think it's incredible what he did coming back from neck surgery. But I don't think the Denver Broncos, as a team, are ready to make that next step. They went to the Super Bowl and got embarrassed by Seattle. They got knocked out of the playoffs early last year. But right now in the West, it's the Chiefs and the Broncos. They're the two that are going to be fighting it out. And I wouldn't mind seeing the Chiefs go into the playoffs and going deep because I'm an Andy Reid fan.
Yeah, I'm an Andy Reid fan too because he was in Philly, so he took my boys to the Super Bowl down in McNabb, and I remember that. He threw up.
See, that's one thing that Philadelphia has over the Lions. At least you've been to the Super Bowl. We've never even been to the Super Bowl. We couldn't even go to the Super Bowl to lose yet.
So, hey, you were in the championship, weren't you? Back in the old days?
1947, but there was no Super Bowl.
We never won the Super Bowl.
There was the NFL championship. They were the champions 56 and 57. There was there's the Browns and the 2 teams that have never been to the Super Bowl in the modern Super Bowl era from the original NFL. The Browns and the Lions were the teams in the 1950s.
All right,
they
split
the championship, and then those are the two of the 4 teams that have never even been to the Super Bowl.
So we got to get this one division out of the way, Mike. And I know this is a real tough one. Man, I can't even think on this one. So I got to let you take the control of this operation.
Okay. See, South?
Mike. So you tell me who you think's going to win that division and why.
Indianapolis Colts by a lot. Nobody else is even going to be above 500. AFC South, Colts wins a beat. I'll put Houston in there as a wild card. They just might do it. If they can get some things figured out, they've got the talent. They just need to get some things figured out. I might there's a wild card.
So, Mike, I want to know, and there was rumors on this East Coast that the Eagles wanted the quarterback from Tennessee. What do you think the Tennessee quarterback's going to do this year?
Marcus Mariota is the future of that franchise. I think if they can build around him, if he can come out, and here's the thing: if I'm a coach and I just burned a first-round draft pick on a quarterback, he's playing. Period. He's not sitting for a year. He's not holding a clipboard. He's not learning. You're gonna go and you're gonna friggin' play. Roethlisberger played, got to a Super Bowl the second year. The quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks got thrown to the Wolves. Russell Wilson, 2 out of his first 3 years he went to a Super Bowl. Here's the ball. Pay attention. Go get him. And if he fails, he fails. Marcus Mariota is a known commodity right now, and it's his to lose. So I wouldn't. If I were Tennessee, I would build my franchise around a young man. He's big, he's strong, he's got a great arm, he's smart. They say he's a system quarterback. Well, if he's a system quarterback, then build the system around him. That's easy.
And Mike, now you have to be an Eagle fan because
If I'm in a coma with I'll never recover with a DNR order, do not resuscitate, then I'll be an Eagles fan.
Oh, Mike, you might put me in a coma.
I'm a Lions fan. I got to stick with my Lions, man.
All right, I tried. You got to give me credit for trying here.
Oh yeah.
So, who do you think's going to be in the Super Bowl and why, and who's winning it?
I want to say, right now it's hard to argue against the Patriots, Seahawks. You could see a Saints Seahawks or a Saints Patriots Super Bowl. I just think the Patriots are pissed off, so they're going to be hard to beat. And right now, Seattle's just the team to beat in the NFC. I mean, they're the one. They got everything going their way. So,
well, Mike,
it's hard to beat.
Mike, it was fun being on the Total Chaos Pecaw show, and I hope you had some fun.
Oh man, I had a great time. This was fun.
So hey, Crazy Joe has to come on your show. So tell our listeners what your show is about and when is it and how they can maybe me and Mike being on the same show again.
Absolutely. Well, every Wednesday night on Armed Radio, you go to tune in, look for Armed Radio. Yeah, we broadcast live 24 hours a day. Talk shows every night of the week, and my night is Wednesday night, 9 p.m. to midnight Central Standard Time, on the air with Mike Allen. We have a call-in line. We have tweets. You can tweet me, MikeAllen_OTA, and hashtag it Armed Radio. I have a variety talk show. So the first hour is mine. I usually bring out political guests, sports guests, people that interest me. My second hour, I have a paranormal expert comes in, and we do paranormal investigations. We have guys in, guests from the paranormal community. And then my third hour, the late night, when all the kids are in bed, I have a co-host named Danny Blaze. She's a young 20-something, and she's hot, and she loves to talk about relationships and men and sex and all that stuff, so I just kind of let her have it for the last hour.
Hey, Mike, you just hit the button. I'm a single man here, Mike. Mike, I am a single... Mike, I am a single man here. I am a single man.
Hey, you might have a chance, man. I don't know.
So, Mike, it was great having you on Total Chaos Pecaw, and I hope to have you back again, my friend.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for having me.
And you just email me anytime you want me on your show, and well, vice versa. And if you know any independent wrestlers out there who want to get their names out there, hook us up to them. Total Chaos Pecaw. We are here for the indie wrestling. But tonight, it was all about the Mike Show.
Well, I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun, Joe.
Have a good night, my friend.
All right, you too.
All right. Bye.